So hi everybody, this is Starting Out Bright. I'm Noreen Savage. I'm so glad you're here, and we're gonna have a great night. We have a guest who has been here before. Before that, I introduced Jenny though. I'll tell you a little bit about myself because you probably came to talk to Jenny and maybe you haven't even met me. So I'm Noreen Savage, and to tell you who I am and who I'm not, first, I'm nobody official with Bright Line Eating, but the program has done a lot for me. I got acquainted with it in 2019 when a friend of mine, Lori, posted on her Facebook page that she had lost 57 pounds. And if anybody was interested, just go ahead and get a hold of her. So I quickly went over to Messenger as fast as my hot little fingers could get there to get the scoop from Lori. And she told me that there were 4 bright lines talked about in a book, The Bright Line Eating by Dr. Susan Pierce Thompson. And the 4 lines that you don't cross were no sugar, no flour, 3 meals a day, and weighed and measured portions. And when Lori told me all that, I thought, absolutely not. No way am I going to do anything that radical. But I like you, Lori. Let's go for lunch. She talked some more, and in that process, she convinced me that if I wanted to get some more information, to do 2 things: get the book and to get into the community. And that particular community was We Eat Right with Lines, which is a private Facebook group, still going strong. And I got in there and I just sat and watched. And what I was seeing was amazing. I was seeing people who were really losing a lot of weight. But more than that, they were having a freedom in their minds. They seemed to be at peace with this. And I promised myself when I got started that if I lasted 1 year, I would do what my friend did. I would post on my Facebook and I would help anybody I could. And so that year came up, 2020. We were in the midst of COVID, and I was getting ready to post. And I'm a Christian. I felt God said, Noreen, you can do more than that. You could connect people, all these people that you saw so successful, with those who were struggling just like you were. And I was 270 pounds, 5'2". Before I got started, my feet were a mess. They were swollen for a year. My knee was inflamed with so much pain. And so many nights I went to bed wondering if I'd wake up in the morning. And so if I could help one person overcome that, then that would be great. And so that's how the Zooms got started. And one by one, I've asked people, and I've been shocked when they say yes, because they didn't even know me other than the internet. And one of those people back in October last year is Genevieve Lavender Campbell. As you'll see, the big name in all the groups. She goes by Jenny. I call her friend. And welcome, Jenny. Thank you for coming back. I got to say one thing. When we talked a year ago, you said a little line in there. I wrote it down. She says, have me on in a year and see how I'm doing.
Did I really say that?
Yeah, you did.
Go back and watch it to see.
You did. You said, have me on in a year and see how I'm doing.
Interesting.
So it's a year.
I wasn't doing good a year ago. I wasn't.
Looked good.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But
see, and looks can be deceiving.
They can.
So
yeah.
Jenny, I talked a little bit about myself, and for the benefit of those who didn't meet you a year ago, could you just bring them up to speed as the quick Jenny, how you got into BLE a little bit, and then what happened in the year? Because I don't want you to have to spend the whole time talking about that, but just how you got into BLE a little bit.
Okay, so I see my BLE mama on the Zoom chat. She actually got on there and said, I'm Jenny's BLE mama. Her name is Beth Monroe. And so Beth and I knew each other just from Facebook, actually. And but we became friends just in some Facebook groups that we were in. just because we had some commonalities. And she, one day I actually came on Facebook, and I was just trying to, figure out what to do to lose weight. I was trying everything, nothing was working. And I thought about doing a 12-step, like Overeaters Anonymous or something. And so I posted and said, has anybody done anything like Overeaters Anonymous or something to lose weight? And Beth reached out to me and said, you don't need that. You need Bright Line Eating. Did I freeze for a second?
Yes.
Am I good with my internet? Okay. Anyway, so Beth told me I don't need, she told me to look into Bright Line Eating. She sent me a link to the Bright Line Eating website. And when you go there, it automatically tells you to take this little quiz and asks you about like your life as far as eating and the history that you've had with binging and things. And it's only 3 questions, but you answer those questions correct, honestly, and it will give you a score from 1 to 10. It's called the susceptibility score, which tells you how susceptible you are to sugar addiction or flour addiction. So Beth said, take this quiz. I promise you're a 10. That's what she told me. Anyway, I took it and I was a 10. And right after you take it, there's a little video from Susan Pierce Thompson, who wrote the book and everything. And she comes on and she says something like, you need to stop eating sugar, you need to give it up, which I knew, like I felt that deep down that was the problem. But at that point I thought, no, I'm gonna try moderation. That's what I thought the answer was. And so I said, this is stupid. And I closed my laptop and I went to bed. This was like late at night. And then that summer I went to Overeaters Anonymous and was trying to do that and trying to eat moderately. And moderation for my brain meant you can have sugar, right? And I had this big, huge Costco sized bag of M&Ms that I am a professional student. I'm always in school, and I was earning my bachelor's degree then. Now I'm earning my master's, but I was trying to finish and very stressed out. And I would just have that bag of M&Ms right next to me, just be inhaling the, handfuls of M&Ms. And I gained 20 pounds that summer while I was in Overeaters Anonymous, trying to eat moderately. Didn't work. And then I had another friend, 2 other friends of mine that I had served a mission with for my church. They were one day talking on Facebook, and I was spying on their conversation, and they were talking about Bright Line Eating. And I said, oh, wait, I've heard of this. And one of them reached out to me and she said, you need to do this. And she told me about the book. I didn't know there was a book. I just got on the website and saw the boot camp, which was kind of expensive. And she started telling me more about the Bright Lines. And I said, what do you mean? Anyway, so I bought the book and read the book, and it completely changed my life. Like I understood all of a sudden, oh my gosh, I'm an addict. This is why this hasn't worked. This is what's happening in my brain. And so I started October of 2017. Yeah, October 9th, 2017. And it took me 18 months to lose around 140-ish pounds. And then later that summer, I dropped another 5 pounds. So total 145, but then part 2 of the story. Are you ready for that, or do you just want me to?
Oh, well, I first of all think it's amazing. 140 to 145 pounds in 18 months. That's just amazing. But you know what's even more amazing is that when you faked me out last year, because you were kind of goofing around a little bit, like, oh, I've had a little bit of slips and slides, but later on, then you were saying, no, it was a little more than slips and slides. You were in the ditch. Mm-hmm. That, I think, is part 2.
Yeah, that's part 2. So for me, the weight loss, it was fun and exciting, and it was hard. Don't get me wrong, like weight loss is hard, and I was focusing on addiction recovery because I recognized that was my problem. I truly felt like once I learned about Bright Line Eating, I knew this was the answer. I shared this in your last interview, but right before I started, you've seen my pictures. Right before this, Noreen was doing a slideshow, and there's a lot of pictures of me wearing Boston Red Sox things because my husband is a really big Boston Red Sox fan. And right before I started Bright Line Eating, we went to Boston, he and I, for our 40th birthdays. And while we were there, I was reading the book. Like I'd finished it while we were there, and I decided I was going to start it when we came home. And we went to this dress shop in Salem, Massachusetts, and I was so depressed there because I would buy like I wanted to buy clothes and I could only wear the bigger, and there wasn't much to choose from. And I remember that the seats in the stadium were super small, just hugging my hips, things like that. It was really hard. But we went to this dress shop and I saw this really cute dress. I probably should have pulled it out here to show you, but I bought a dress and it was like $35. And I told my husband it was a size 10. That was my goal size. And I said, I'm going to buy this, and if it doesn't fit me in a year or isn't like close to fit me, meaning like I'm losing weight and it looks bad, if in a year that's not going on, I'm just going to surrender and say, surrender in a different way, but say I'm just going to be fat the rest of my life. That's just what it's going to be for me. And so I decided at that point, I'm going to try Bright Line Eating for a year. I'm going to just be all in and do this. And so I came home from that trip and I threw myself into it, and I did really well. But recovery is a process. And I'm dealing with an addiction here, not just with weight loss. And so the whole thing was this little process for me. And there were still addictive tendencies that I held on to through my weight loss journey. Even though I followed Bright Line Eating, I'd say 90%, right? There was one thing that was holding me back that really threw me in the ditch, and that was Diet Coke. So for me, what was going on was pre-Bright Line, like in my whole life, my parents will attest to this. Like I never, and I think they're here, so hi, mom and dad. But I never was a soda drinker, truly. Like they would always say, "Oh, you love water," but it was I get migraine headaches, and I don't know. A few years before I started Bright Line Eating, I discovered that the caffeine in the soda killed my migraines, and it was like the only thing that would help me. And I'm not a coffee drinker for religious reasons. I don't drink coffee. So it was from, soda. And I remember before I started Bright Line Eating thinking, well, what's going to happen if I get a headache? And Excedrin just wasn't enough to do it for me. Anyway, and I thought, well, I'll cross that bridge when it comes to it. So I read in my 5-year journal, it was only because in Bright Line Eating, we're encouraged to keep a journal, a 5-year journal where we write in it every night, just a little smidget. So I've kept that for 5 years. But anyway, I read in my 5-year journal that it was about 3 weeks into my Bright Line Eating journey, got a migraine. And I remember coming on different Facebook support groups and asking, what would you do? And a lot of people were telling me drink coffee. And I thought, well, if you're going to tell me to drink coffee, I'm just going to drink a diet soda. Now, looking back, I didn't tell you this part last night, Noreen, but looking back, I think that there was a part in my brain, like the saboteur, like they talk about in the book, that was saying, yeah, get a diet soda, like that's a loophole. And I was kind of excited about that. Anyway, so I did. I went and got a diet soda, and I learned for me it was like the ritual. Like I didn't really keep it in my house that much, but I liked to go to, through a drive-through and get it. It was like, just that was an exciting part of it to me. Anyway, so I went and got it, drank it, and it killed the headache. And I thought, okay, maybe I can I'm just telling my brain this is medicine, medicinal purposes. I'm okay. And it worked that time, right? But then I got another headache. And then it came to the point where I was like, I think I have a headache. I'll go have a soda, And then it was my family's we're all on vacation. Everybody's eating a treat, everybody's snacking, and I'm not, and I feeling sorry for myself. I'll have a soda. And that would happen. And then it really became this everyday thing where I was getting like a 44-ounce thing. I mean, my daughter was working at this soda place here close to our house. And when she got the job there, I was the one that helped her get a job. And they said, when she got the job, I said, oh, you guys, my daughter works here. They're like, oh yeah, you're the Diet Coke lady. Like they just knew me because they'd come there so much. And that was like, and I remember helping at a girls' camp thing for our church. And I had to bring my stupid stuff with me there. And I'm telling everybody, I don't eat sugar, because I was doing Bright Line Eating. But they're like, you drink this and you could lose that much weight and still drink this. And I'm like, yeah, but I couldn't stay away from it. It was really, really bad. And every day I would wake up and say, I'm not going to drink it today. And then I would, I just couldn't do it. And it wasn't messing with my weight for a while. And then it was. And when I say it was, it was keeping the cravings alive and the habit of going through drive-throughs would, you go through a drive-through and then it's just easy. Well, might as well get this or that instead. And so, another thing when I started maintenance, I started to eat, and I'm saying in Bright Lane Eating, a lot of times we don't talk about specific foods a lot because we think that can trigger people. So I realize that's what I'm doing, and I'm sorry, but it's part of my story. But what happened to me was when I got to maintenance, I just thought French fries could be considered a grain. So when you do maintenance, you start adding more food to your program, and one of the first foods you add is grains at lunch, and then dinner, and grains like sweet potatoes, like actually cooked,
Right.
not fried, right, and like rice and quinoa, things like that. And but like, hello, fries are potato. Why can't, and then they're in oil. I can just count that as the fat. So this is what I'm telling myself. And I'm going through a drive-through, so might as well just count that as my lunch grain. Things like that were happening. And it was escalating a lot. And this was in the year 2020. Well, actually, so I started maintenance in 2019, and I was kind of sliding into that and just wasn't really being honest with myself. But in 2020, when everything shut down and I kind of went crazy, like, oh no, what's happening? And I was scared and everything. Well, during that time, we went and stocked up on, like, okay, went to the store and got all the food, and I got a lot of what we in Bright Lane Eating call not my food, which is, sugar and flour and things, because I have a family. So I got that stuff. And I remember that my mother-in-law, she was with us and she had helped me get it. And I came home and was putting it away. And my kids were at school because this was right before everything shut down. And she said, you should go put this under your bed because your kids are going to see it and then they're going to just want to eat it. That is like telling an alcoholic, go stick
The wine bottle right under the bed.
beer under your bed. You know what I mean? But I did. I put it under my bed and it was there. It was fine for a little bit. But then my dog one day came in my room and got there and like tore open a bag of something, and I picked it up and I had to put it in a Ziploc bag, and it was some candy, and I was handling it and smelling it, and already in this really vulnerable place, and cravings were crazy because of what I was doing, keeping all the cravings alive with the artificial sweetener. And I just binged on that candy. And then it was like, what else could I get? And I was just, I had lost it. Like within, a matter of seconds, I was gone. And then I had a sponsor I was working with at the time, who's great, Shauna Murph. She's still my sponsor. I reached out to her and I was really, like, I can't believe I did that. I was so scared that I was going to happen again. And it did happen again, like 2 weeks later. And then 2 weeks again. And then it just became every day. And when I had the sugar, it wasn't like take a taste and move on. It was like inhale, and like just eat a lot at, I would find excuses to go to the store by myself so that I could buy whatever and sit in my car and eat it and, wipe my mouth and do all those things so nobody would know. But every time I would come clean because I'd feel so sick, physically sick, and I would regret it. But I also learned how my body was reacting. It wasn't just the weight. It was, I would have night sweats like really bad. And
Wow.
I'm 44 now. So I was 43 at the time. And I thought, oh, maybe this is perimenopause. That's seriously what I thought. But guess what? I stopped with the sugar and they stopped.
Wow.
So it wasn't perimenopause. It was a reaction, and I fainted. Truly. Like one day I came home and
Did you say you fainted?
Yeah, I fainted one day. Yeah. I came home and I binged on some sugar. And this was what would happen to me. I would binge, and then in the middle of the night, I couldn't sleep. I'd wake up and, because I was sick or whatever, it would make it so I couldn't sleep. And this happened a lot. And it wasn't just because I was feeling regret. It was because my body was physically rejecting the sugar. And so this one night, I was super sick from eating the sugar. And it wasn't even as much as I had eaten in the past, but it was, something. And anyway, I remember just getting up and being like, oh my gosh, I don't feel good. And so I thought, okay, I'm just going to go in the bathroom and see if like I can just, relieve myself and feel better. And the next thing I know, I'm lying on the bathroom floor. My husband is, standing above me. He's like, you were sweating everywhere. And I had fainted and I went to the doctor later and did blood work to make sure that it wasn't anything. And I'm convinced it was a sugar overdose.
Oh my gosh.
It was the craziest thing. And I know everybody some of you already know this, and probably a big question is, how much weight did I regain during that time? I regained 40 pounds. So my highest weight ever was 284, and I got down to 139, but that was only like for a second, really, because I was struggling with cravings and all of this that I told you about. And then I was still weighing myself and everything, but it got up to 160, so about 20 pounds, and I was, because I kept thinking before that, like, don't go back to weight loss, stick to your maintenance plan. And I just it wasn't there, right? My brain just wasn't there. And then I went up to 160, and anyway, and then it just kept climbing. But so the highest back that it went up was 180. But I remember feeling really scared. Like, is this gonna go? Am I going back? I thought bright line eating was the answer, and now I'm not doing this. And what's going on? But at that time, I did know that this was a relapse. I knew that it was like, addicts go through that with addiction recovery, and that's what it was. And I knew that I just needed to somehow, I knew there was a lesson in this relapse, and I needed to turn it around. And so I did. So
Wow.
That's part 3.
I want to go all the way back to the artificial sweetener, the Diet Coke, which seems to have started the whole thing, both in terms of the cravings, it sounds like, but also this inner not having integrity.
Oh, for sure.
So first, about the sugar-free stuff, when I read in the book, Susan talked about that artificial sugar wasn't allowed either. Because I was trying to figure out, how am I going to do this with like no honey, no maple syrup, no nothing, not even artificial. And so I'm thinking, well, that might be a good idea. But then it was addressed. And why? For someone who's new and has not read the book, my understanding of that part in the book is that when your bloodstream gets the artificial sweetener, it's getting the rush like it's expecting the goods, but it's not getting them. So it's still expecting them. It's expecting calories besides just this rush, the dopamine rush. And so when that doesn't happen, you're still craving what was supposed to come with the rush. And I didn't know if I believed that. I didn't at the time. But months into my journey, I decided one day, I was all stressed out at work, and I was just going to go to the vending machine, and what would it hurt to have some gum? And I don't normally chew gum at work, but I'm like, that's it. I'm getting something. And I got sugar-free gum. I could not stop. I could not stop. I chewed the whole pack of gum from the time I bought it in the afternoon to the drive home. And when I got home, I was so ferociously hungry. I thought, well, maybe it was dinner, but I was like crazy hungry. I did hold off till dinner, but I did the experiment the exact same way the next day. The same thing happened, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's the artificial sweetener. So if you did this day in and day out, Jenny, holy cow, I was going crazy just in 2 days. So besides that, you are to the world looking like you have it all together, maybe even to your sponsor if you have one, but inside the integrity is not there, and the mind piece. So then now you've escalated in your journey, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
And it's like Katie bar the door now. You're really face down, literally, with fainting. I mean, wow.
That was face up because I picked
Or face up.
But yeah.
I was being dramatic. But anyway, so now here you are. That had to scare the crap out of you.
Yeah, it was, and the problem was, I knew what was going on. I knew it was addiction. I just didn't know how to stop. It was so hard. Every night, I have a good friend who will say, bright days are the best days. And she's so right. That's like my favorite thing. And what I realized was, I never regretted when I went to bed and I was bright. And by bright, I mean, like, I followed the program. and didn't cheat or whatever. I never went to bed thinking, oh man, I wish I would have done whatever, right? There were days that I would feel sad that I didn't eat cheesecake when everybody was eating it or something, you know what I mean? But I never felt like regret that I was healthy that day. But every time I ate off plan and cheated, I would go to bed with regret. So it was like this different feeling. And then I would tell myself, okay, tomorrow, I'm not going to do it tomorrow. And that diet soda thing was so strong. It was like this voice, give it to me now, that just wouldn't go away. And it was so hard. Like I just couldn't do it. And so should I tell how I was able to do it?
We're like at the edge of our seats.
I know. Well, I already told you, but it was a really, really neat story. And so what happened was in part one of my journey, I did share this, if you watch that YouTube video, but my husband suffers from an addiction. And because of his addiction, that is why Bright Line Eating, really, I could understand it, because I knew what was happening in his brain, and I knew how it worked in his brain. So it made sense to me. And so anyway, like I said, I would just wake up every day and say, well, go to bed at night and say, tomorrow I'm not going to have any soda. And then the next day I'd wake up and think, when can I get it? Right. So I remember a day in August of 2020, and it was a Saturday. And on Saturdays and Sundays, it was especially hard because my husband wasn't going to drive me somewhere to, he was home and he wanted to support me. And like, I would go drive to get it. And my husband would be like, no, we're not. You don't need that. We're not doing that. And I would be so mad at him and just want my drink, and you know how it is. Anyway, and so it was the Saturday, because he knew I didn't want it. It wasn't that he was controlling that. He was really trying to help me. And so it was a Saturday, and I thought, oh, how am I going to get it? He's not going to let me. But in that morning, I knew the night before I didn't want it. That morning I did. So finally, I just turned to him and said, how do you do it? How do you win? How do you overcome these cravings, this kind of thing? And he said, you stop fighting. You just stop. You stop trying to do it your way, and you give it to him, meaning God. And that hit me so strong. And he's like, it is hard, but you ask God to take it away from you. You ask him to change your heart, and then it's not so hard. And boy, that was a turning point for me. And no, I didn't stop drinking it that day. I think I actually even had it that day. I don't remember, but I just remember knowing like that's what I had to do. And so from then on, I started to think a lot about surrender and what does that mean? And I started to pray a lot and to ask God, like, help me to surrender, take this from me. And so right then, so I had just done my whole weight loss journey, beginning of maintenance journey, just from reading the book, and from support, because there's a lot of free support groups on Facebook and things, and there's videos that Susan Pierce Thompson put out. So I did all of that, but I decided to pay for the boot camp, which Susan Pierce Thompson does. And so that summer I paid for the boot camp, and I started to do that. And I still wasn't into it. I didn't really do a lot of that boot camp, but there were a couple of things that Susan said that really stuck to me. And one of them was, so the emergency action plan, which they talk about in the book, and I probably just wasn't into it enough. But, emergency action plan, so you come up with like, I think 5 things that you're going to do when you're tempted. And one of them that she said, and I was familiar with emergency action plan, I just hadn't really done it. But so I think she says like, reach out, post in Facebook and say, oh, I'm having a hard time, or reach out to a friend. And like, I learned if I say it out loud, like, I really want chocolate, that will stop me, honestly, a lot of times. But one of her things she said was to pray. And I shared this with you, Noreen. I remember thinking, no, I'm not going to pray, because then that'll stop me. Like, and I really kind of wanted the food in the moment. So I realized that my heart was really in the food. Like, I had told my husband that sugar was my first love. And he was like, okay, thank you. That's not like, I thought I was your first love, but truly, like, that's how I felt in the moment, and a lot. Anyway, and so I thought, okay, I need to have a change of heart. And so I started to really pray. And then, so boot camp kind of taught me, let's pray. And then also another thing, we're taught in Bright Line Eating to write our food down the night before. And write it down, and then commit it to somebody. Say, this is only and exactly what I'm going to eat tomorrow. Well, from day one of Bright Line Eating, I had written my food down, but I was really good at not sticking to what I thought I would eat. And in the beginning, that really wasn't a big deal, like weight wise, because if I wrote down broccoli and instead ate asparagus, like I could still lose weight, right? And that's what I was doing. But what was happening is there's this primitive part of your brain in the back of your head, and the frontal part is the part that makes decisions. That's like your higher brain that you really want to be in charge, running the show. But the primitive part is the part that says, give it to me now. It's like the little kid, like, I want this now. And that part of my brain was running the show. And like I said, for a while that didn't matter, but it got to the point where it was like, and I was really having a problem with fast food restaurants and things. And it was like, okay, I know I wrote down that I was going to make that taco salad, but I think I'm just going to go to this fast food place and get something that's Bright Line Eating compliant, but then I could still get my Diet Coke and my, you know what I mean? And
Right.
so I was going downhill. That was what was really happening. But in boot camp, Susan said that the only, like, when she writes her food down, the only time, there'll be times that she'll change her food plan. And she says some reasons, like something will happen with her kids, or I don't know, there's reasons.
Right.
But she did say she will never, ever change it based on how she feels in the moment. On, oh, I feel like that instead. And that hit me so strong because I thought, that's what I'm doing all the time. And it was bringing me downhill. So anyway, so I knew I needed to have, like you said, Noreen, more integrity with my program completely. And based on that started with, eating what I had committed to eat and all those kind of things. And so I started to just really pray and ask God to help me to surrender, help me to understand this. And I started to say this mantra to myself. It was, I want recovery more than I want the food. Because in the moment, I really did feel like I wanted the food more, a lot that time. And I thought, I just need to tell myself this and eventually I'm going to believe. So that's what I would do. And so this was about a year ago, right at this time that all this was going on. And I was really trying to get myself on track. And so my friend Shauna, who had been my sponsor before, when I was really struggling, she was really sweet, but she's like, come back when you're ready. So she wasn't really, it wasn't worth her. She's a busy woman. It wasn't really worth her time, but she was still there for me as a friend. And I knew what I should do, because she had said this to me before. She said, if you really want to be to where you will never break your lines again, meaning never cheat, this is what you do. And she said, you not only write your food down every night, but you will prepare it, take a picture of it, and commit it to me that this is exactly what you're eating. And she told me that like that summer in like August of that year. And I said, no, I'm not doing that. I wasn't ready. And I thought, oh, I don't need to do that. But I was really, really struggling. I realized, like, through prayer, seriously, like, I felt the Holy Spirit tell me, this is what you need to do. If you want to surrender, you need to do it that way. You need to stop doing it your way. Stop thinking, well, I can sneak in a little Diet Coke here. You need to do this. And so I reached out to Shauna in December and I said, Shauna, will you sponsor me again? I am ready. And I knew what she was going to ask me to do. I said, I'll do whatever you ask me. She's like, okay. And so we started in January. But before that, and this is the part I want to tell too, is, as I was still trying to get myself into that Ascending Heart, I was watching this movie that's produced by my church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and it's called The Christ Child. And it's a movie it's just a short little, I think, 6-minute movie about the nativity. And they just show everybody what's going on when the Savior was born. And I was watching the wise men give their gifts to Jesus. They were their treasures. And I remember thinking, he didn't need those. Now, people have told me, yes, he did, because he needed to, his parents needed to escape Herod. Okay, that's all true, but he was the Savior of the world. He was God. Like, it would have worked out. And really, they gave them to him because they loved him, and those were their treasures. And like I said, sugar was my first love. It was my treasure. I mean, I'm going to get emotional. I loved it more than anything. When I look at like what makes me happy, it was sugar. How I was always shown, love, it was always sugar. How I still show love to people is through sugar. And it really was my treasure. And I hadn't completely given it up, even though I thought I did. And I was watching this movie and it just hit me. I need to give this to him. And I closed my eyes and I literally saw myself going before the Savior and giving him Diet Coke, chocolate, and French fries, and saying, "Take this from me, take this treasure from me." And from then on, I was done. I changed, and super cliche, but January 1st was the day that I resumed, and I have not had any broken lines since that day. No diet soda, no candy, no French fries, and I did reach out to Shauna, and she, I did exactly every meal. I still do this. I prepare it at night, take a picture, send it to her, say, this is what I'm eating tomorrow. And I don't, no excuses, no matter what. That is my mantra now. And I just do it. And there's been only a couple of times where I have changed my meal plan for whatever reason. Like one time my in-laws said, we want to take you to dinner. And so I just, said, okay, I'm going to go to dinner instead. And, some reasons like that, but I always text her before and let her know. But because of that, I have now lost those 40 pounds again. And I truly feel surrendered. I truly feel peace. It is not hard anymore. It is not hard. I don't have days where I'm like fighting it. I have food thoughts every once in a while, but not even every day, I will say. And a food thought is just like, oh, that looks good. That would be nice to eat that. But it's not oh my gosh, why can't I eat that? This is so hard. It's just yeah, that looks fine, but that's not me anymore. And I really love how bright food tastes, way more than that stuff. And I just feel really happy. And actually, I'm even lower than the 139 now. I got to about 136. And not that even I was fine where I am, but that's just what happened. And maintenance is going really well. I've just been really careful with it. And I also did the Reboot Resume course that Susan does. I did that at the same time I started working with Shauna, and that really helped me too. So anyway, there's my story, and that's what happened.
That is so amazing. And, you could have just tried to do it yourself too. And, Shauna could have shut the door, but she left that door open for you to come back without bugging you about it. I mean, that's just a beautiful relationship that I see. I mean, talk about patience, but love, really. And then your gift to the Savior, I mean, it's just really quite amazing. So when you said it's not so hard now, like if you had to compare to what it was before, and here you were in your supposed right-sized body, for someone who is trying to cheat their way through, what is the difference? The way you were then in 140 and the way you are now around that, your mind.
It's truly freedom right now. And I thought I was free before, but honestly, like, I don't fight it. I'm not every day thinking, isn't just Coke, right? And or those things. You talked about gum. And it's funny because I'm sure people are watching this that aren't that familiar with bright line eating and think, what's the big deal about gum? And or even there's a lot of bright line eaters that still chew gum. And Susan says in her book, don't do that. Get used to not having things in your mouth all the time. But that was a lot of my justification. Well, people are chewing gum. I can drink the soda. Like, I just thought the same. But even this year, I was doing the gum a little bit. And then I realized, oops, this is because it was, starting to, what's the word? Get
stronger. You what? And we talked about that. We talked last night, and there are like 4 questions that you can ask yourself. What is it? Is this escalating?
Yeah, escalating. That's what I was looking for. Yeah. So if you've introduced something into your diet that you're wondering is triggering to you, meaning like you're obsessing about it. Sometimes you might not even be obsessing about that thing, but you just seem to have more food thoughts, or you're having a harder time, like, fighting cravings and things. That's probably because you've introduced something into your diet that your brain is getting a hit from. And anyway, so you ask yourself these 4 questions, which is PHEW, pew, right? So do you have peace with it? Meaning, like, there's things that you could maybe have that, and maybe some people would say aren't compliant, but you yourself feel like that's okay, right? But clearly, like, I did not have peace with the diet soda. I was not okay with it. Anyway, is it healthy? Diet soda is not healthy. Nobody can tell you it is. Although I have had people tell me that it is, but it's not. Is it escalating? Like, do you keep wanting it more and more and more? And that definitely happened to me. And it happened to me with gum too. Because, like, you'll say, oh, I need it for my breath. But then like you're just having another piece and another piece. And at the same time, I would go to mints because you're worried about your breath. So I think, well, I'll have mints. I was like popping them like candy. I had to buy a big Costco sized thing of them, like so stupid. So yeah. And then the last one is it affecting your weight? Which diet soda was not affect. I was able to lose weight, but not able to keep it off truly. Like it went up. And I remember thinking, so I got down to 140 and then it quickly went up and I was kind of settled there in the 150s. And I thought, well, maybe that's just where my body wants to be. I'll be okay with that. But I really wasn't okay with
I have a question about the
it. And I told you last night, Noreen, too, like my smallest size I got to. Yeah. My smallest size I got to initially was a size 6, which I was really happy with. I had one pair of pants that was a size 6 and I called them my skinny pants, and but they were kind of tight on me. Like they never were like right. I'm in a 4 now. Those pants are too big on me, those 6s. And that's just because I gave up the soda. Like I'm not just, I surrendered, but I remember thinking, oh, it's not messing with my weight. Yes, it was. It totally was. But
Wow.
not in the same, I mean, because I could still lose weight, but it wasn't in the same way. Because now I never thought I'd be in a 4, and here I am,
Wow.
just by
That's,
doing that. Yeah.
I have a question before I forget about the committing the food. You actually pack the food. Is that breakfast, lunch, and dinner?
Yeah. So not always dinner, but because, sometimes I'm preparing it for my family. And so I'll do that just at dinner time, but always breakfast and lunch, always. And it's so nice because then I don't have to think about it. The next day I'm like, here's my food, grab and go. It takes me 20 seconds. Dinner, a lot of times though, I will prepare ahead of time. It depends. Sometimes I'm too tired and I'm just like breakfast and lunch. And then I just know what dinner is. But a lot of times, like tonight I made a homemade chicken noodle soup. I didn't prepare that a lot ahead of time, but in the past I have, where I'll like cut up all the veggies and they're ready to go. Yeah. So a lot of people will ask me that are moms like me, like, how do you do that with your family?
Right.
A lot of nights I am eating my own thing just because it's really quick. And my youngest is 12. So my kids can help themselves. And so they're kind of on their own. And I'll be honest, they hate that. They do not like that. So my husband and I sat them down just this week and said, okay, what does everybody want to make for dinner this week? And now everybody's chipping in. We'll see. I mean, that just started, but that's helpful. And so when it is a bright meal, I'll eat it with them. But I'm busy. I'm in school. I'm working. So it's actually very helpful for me to get to have everything prepared.
But you really had to put yourself first.
100%.
And
I did talk about that in the last Zoom. Yeah. 100% though.
and the thing is that, you talk about packing, and I think I got this from Shauna way back because she actually does a neutral, like so many days. I didn't do that many days, but I started packing my food. And then when COVID hit and I was working at home all the time, I thought, well, that's not necessary. I'm right here. When it's 1:30 and you've forgotten to take a lunch and now you're standing in front of the refrigerator, you wish you would have packed your lunch because now everything's looking so good. And I'm living with people, that 7 other people who are not doing bright line eating, and their food looks a lot sexier in that moment than what I have for what my stash is. And so I started packing a lunch even if I was working from home. Not all the time, but a lot of the times. And it really made a big difference. And I've kept doing that. So Darlene asked, what did the E stand for? So PHEW. So P was
P is peace.
peace.
H is it healthy? E is it escalating?
Yes.
Wanting more and more. And W is it messing with your weight?
Okay.
So yeah, but you're exactly right, because in the summertime I'm a stay-at-home mom. I'm home. I mean, I'm a substitute teacher, so not actually. I thought I just got hired as a teacher today, but yeah. But anyway, but there's days I'm home, right? But I still prepare my meal, and I will tell you too. So I made myself 2 bright lines when I resumed in January. So I have the 4. And those of you that don't know what the bright lines are, bright lines mean like a boundary that you set up in your brain that you won't cross. You're just not going to cross it. So like, you have bright lines in your life. Like you don't drive over the speed limit. There's certain morals we have. Like I don't drink alcohol. Like that's just, I just don't. That's a religious thing, but I don't do that. I don't smoke. Like that's a bright line. Like I don't care if you broke into my home and said, smoke the cigarette or I'm going to kill you. I guess I'm going to die because I'm not going to smoke a cigarette. Like that's just who I am. And so it's the same with bright line eating. There's these bright lines, no sugar, which we already talked about, no artificial sweeteners, no maple syrup, no honey, none of that, because that just fires off the brain going crazy with wanting addictive, things like that. So no sugar, no flour or like almond flour, none of that. We don't snack. And then we have we eat 3 meals a day, not 4, I had 4 fingers up. 3 meals a day, and they're weighed and measured. So we get a certain amount of food, but it's actually a lot of food. And before I started bright line eating, I was really like surprised at every diet I'd done. I thought, oh, I eat a lot of vegetables until I started. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, I was not eating. Now I eat a ton. So the weighing is actually to get enough. But I had a point with that. What was I saying that? Oh yeah. So those are the 4 bright lines. But when I resumed this year, meaning I kind of started, start over. I don't know what. Susan will tell you why it's called resume, but I can't remember. Do you?
No, I don't know.
Like resume, like start again, but it's spelled resume, ZOOM, like you're zooming. Anyway, but when I resumed this year, I gave myself 2 other bright lines. And one of them is I don't go through drive-thrus by myself.
Oh.
That one made huge. And the other one was I prepare my food every night. And I knew that if I kept those 2 lines, I would not break the others. But here's the funny thing about the drive-through thing. So I don't go through drive-throughs by myself, but there have been, many times, like this happens at least once a week where I'm with my children and they're going through a drive-through. And you know what? They get their food and I go home and eat my food. And it is not like, I don't know. I will say that really is probably the hardest part of my bright line eating journey to date. But I still am not like, oh, how come you're eating that? And I'm not like, I'm really okay. Because I know I made that last night and I know what it is. And it's super delicious. And I'm going to go home and eat that. And I'm okay. But actually, I did make another bright line as this year. And that was that I only eat out once a week because that was hard. And that one is probably the hardest one to keep, because there's social things and things like that. So some weeks are that one's hard. But Shauna and I talked about that one, and I really do try to stick to that one most of the time, just because it threw me off to eat out.
So I have a question. The time is getting.
But yeah. So
Well, Deb has a question. Do you have just one size in your closet?
That's funny that you say that, Deb. I got rid of most of my clothes. But last year when I got down, I was an 8. And so I still have a lot of size 8s, but they're too big for me. So most of my clothes are smalls or 4s to 6. I do have 8s that I need to get rid of. One of my daughters was asking me about having them, so she'll probably get them. And I do have some medium tops. Actually, I have some 2Xs tops that I still wear sometimes, just that they're a little bit bigger. And one day I was wearing one and it reminded me, like it kind of like I saw my reflection in a, something in a window. And when I saw my reflection, like I was in this body, but my brain went to my other body.
Wow.
And it kind of took me back and was like, oh yeah, I remember you. And I just had this compassion. Oh, wow. That me who had been looking so hard for this answer that I've now found, that was wishing to be this me now. And I thought, yeah, it was kind of a weird thing, but yet sometimes I'll wear those clothes just because I still like them. Actually, today I was helping out at this it's called a share-in shop, so people are bringing clothes and then they're donating it. And then people can, so they're donating clothes and then people are coming through and like choosing clothes. It's this thing that our church is doing. So I was setting that up and the donations, and somebody had donated this bag of this really cute size 20 clothes, and I'm pulling them out. My daughter was with me and she's like, Mom, are you wishing that was you again? Are you wishing that you were? I'm like, I don't know. It was the weirdest thing because I was like really loving these clothes that were a size 20. That was, it was, I don't know. But what was that question that just popped up?
It's a question about, do you see yourself then, though? You had this moment of reflection, almost like you're looking into a mirror that has a different reflection. Do you mostly see yourself then?
I do. I have those moments, which is weird. And sometimes I'll see pictures of myself, actually a lot, of my previous self. And I think I probably just like you guys do, but I think I can't believe that's me. Like it is weird now, because I've been in this body really for like 3 years. Well, on the way, I've been, and so this does feel like the real me. It really does. And when I was heavier, I knew that the real me was inside me. Like I knew that the heavier me wasn't really me. I knew that it was this thinner me, even though most of my life I've been overweight, but I did have brief parts where I wasn't. And I did feel more like myself in this body. But it is weird. I'm very used to it now. Like I don't like we were talking last night, Noreen, you said sometimes you forget like what it felt like to like I was saying at the Red Sox thing, to have the seats, hug my sides and things like that. Like you do forget those some of the limitations that you had as a heavy
intensity of them.
Yeah, it's weird that you can forget that, because I don't want to forget that, because I don't want to take this body for granted. But then I do have these moments of, like, today was just the weirdest thing, like longing for those bigger clothes. It was very strange. I thought I literally can go into a store and this is wonderful, and just look at anything, take it off the rack, and know that I can wear it. I can order things online. Susan talks about it. Susan Pierce Thompson will talk about this. Like, your size. Like, you just go on Amazon. I'm a small. Send me that, and it's just. I'm like, I'm a small. And it fits me. And I'm every time I'm like, yep, that's my size, and I'm totally happy. But it is strange to have that longing. And I think what it is, I just think it's a compassion for, I remember that person, and I love you, and you're still part of me. And I'm just giving you the biggest love.
Yeah.
Like I'm not, I know sometimes people lose weight and they're like disgusted with who they used to be. And I think that it's all a process. We go through that, but I am truly not disgusted at who I used to be, because she's me. And she fought really hard, and I'm so grateful for that me. So, yeah.
Well, Jenny, I'm going to ask you one more question, because maybe there's somebody is here who is sitting on the sidelines and wondering, is it for me too? Or maybe they have fallen in the ditch so hard. They're wondering, is it worth it pulling myself back up? What would you say to them?
I would say it is absolutely worth it. You know why? Because you're worth it. And there's always, always, always hope. You fall down 10 times, get up 11, and God will help you. You don't have to do it by yourself. It's always Him, always, and you can do it.
Wow.
And if I can do it, you can do it, and I know you can.
Wow, you are doing it, and what a gift you've given to share your story. I'm changed by knowing that it's possible, even when you've fallen so hard. And you've given me hope. I hope I don't have to do that, but I know that I will keep that hope alive, that should I fall, here we go. I'll just remember you. So anyway, any last words before we go?
And thank you, Noreen. You're awesome. I love that you do this. And thanks for watching, everybody. And yeah, just I think the biggest thing, you guys, you said this, Noreen, that I learned that I come first. You come first. Remember that. Like, take care of ourselves. I said this on the last Zoom, but my grandmother told me that. She said, you come first. If you don't remember that, nobody else will.
Wow.
So
smart lady.
Yeah.
And it seems counterintuitive, but unless you fill yourself up, what do you have to give? But then when you do, and oh my goodness, and you have the gifts that you can share with the world, because you're not running this rat race of destroying yourself. You know, you have so much to give and you're giving it. So thank you so much. And with that, I'm going to close as I do each week. Good night, stay bright, sleep tight, and don't let the bed bugs bite. Good night, everybody. So Jenny, how would you like to play 3-Question Thursday?
Okay.
See what you're getting into here. Okay, well, we didn't even touch about food prep. Like, you say that you put it all together, but are you like the simple food person, or do you get into variety? And what would be something that you continuously make?
I do think I am more on the simple side. I don't really do recipes or anything. I just look at ingredients. So my go-to, we talked about this. I was going to show this and I forgot, but you can buy these Madras lentils from Tasty Bite lentils from Costco. They just come in this little packet. Those count as, a full protein, a full fat, and 4 ounces of vegetables. So those are so easy. You pop them in the microwave for 1.5 minutes. But I learned that you can also have them cold. And I take those and I take a can of green beans and put them in, just pop the green beans in the bag, mix it up and eat it. And I have taken that to Disney World. Just and they were like, we've never seen somebody, like, I brought that in with a can opener and they just thought it was so funny. But that is like my easiest grab and go meal with a thing of fruit, whatever. And that is like simple to me. That's what I have a lot.
Easy.
For lunch and dinner. Mm-hmm.
Always in the cupboard.
Yep.
Well,
yeah. Food storage.
Here's my question too. You gave me a picture of you in a bridal dress. What was that about? And
that was my wedding dress. So me and some people in my Gideon Games group, which is a whole other thing, but that's what Bright Lane Eating kind of thing. We were talking about, Shauna Murph was talking about how she had her wedding dress in her under her bed. And I'm like, hey, who else has their wedding dress? Let's put them on. And so we all put it on in different times and took pictures. So I pulled mine out. And when I got married, I was 180. So I was 40 pounds more than I am now. So it was, it's bigger on me, but it was kind of fun. My kids were taking pictures and yeah, so that's what that was.
Wow.
Yeah.
My last question. Are you glad in a way that you went through what you did as far as getting in the ditch? Does it ever strike you that maybe you were meant to do that?
Yes, I know that I was meant to do that. I knew when I was doing it that I was meant to do it. I knew that there was a lesson and that it was going to make me stronger. So yes, I am. And if anything, it taught me that, when you lose weight, you can get really cocky and like, oh, look at me, I'm so amazing. But it taught me that it wasn't, how do I say? It was about me. Clearly, it was my journey, but it was God's journey with me. And so it taught me to make him part of that for me. So.
And that's a lifelong thing.
Yeah.
If you've taken that one lesson, that can last a lifetime. And now you've shared that with us. So I just thank you for coming back, taking one for the team, and being on Starting Out Bright. And thanks for playing 3-Question Thursday.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks,
so
everybody.
great to see you. Thanks, everybody. Stay bright. Good night.